Thank you. Good afternoon. South Australian Police this morning have arrested 55 individuals that we allege are involved in serious and organised crime across the state.
In the history of organised crime, empires have fallen in dramatically different ways. Some crumble amid the roar of guns and fire, while others vanish quietly, leaving behind only whispers of their existence. Australia, in the early 21st century, was home to one such empire. It was not built in boardrooms or by clever accountants. Its power was measured in decibels, in the kilometers of roads its motorcycles patrolled, in the sheer visibility of its members on the streets. This was the era of the Rebels Motorcycle Club, Australia's largest and most formidable outlaw motorcycle gang. At their height, witnessing them roll through a city was like observing a force of nature itself. Before we dive into the dark and thrilling world of organized crime, make sure to hit the like button, subscribe to Crime Cipher, and click the bell so you never miss an update. Welcome to Crime Cipher, where we uncover the rise, fall, and secrets of the world's most notorious criminal empires. In 2013, Perth played host to a gathering that would demonstrate the sheer scale of their influence. Nearly 1,000 members from across the country converged for the Rebels' annual national run. It was a spectacle so massive that police needed to deploy their largest security operation since a visit from the Queen herself. The streets echoed with a roar of Harley-Davidsons and the gleam of chrome reflected in the sunlight. Their insignia, a skull overlaid on the Confederate flag, adorned with the 1% patch, was an unmistakable symbol of their territorial dominance. They were loud, they were visible, and they were untouchable, or so it seemed. And then, as if by some silent decree, the roar faded. The empire contracted. There was no single massacre like the Milper incident in 1980, for that redrew the criminal map. No defining war with a declared winner or loser. The Rebels, once an unstoppable force boasting more than 70 chapters nationwide and over 1,000 members, simply lost their crown. How could an organization, forged over decades in violent turf wars against the likes of the Bandidos and Rock Machine, vanish not in a blaze of bullets, but in a whisper? The answer lies not on the streets, but in the confluence of criminology, technology, and globalization. This is the story of how a once dominant criminal empire faced extinction, not from brute force, but from a paradigm shift in the nature of organized crime. The Rebels were dinosaurs of an analog era, built on visibility, intimidation, and tribal loyalty. They had conquered territories with muscle, marked their power with leather and chrome, and built a culture of spectacle. They faced a new kind of predator, a stealthy, corporate-like criminal syndicate that understood that true power in the 21st century is not displayed publicly. It is managed in the shadows. The shift wasn't gradual, it was seismic. As technology tightened its grip on the world, criminal organizations evolved faster than the laws written to stop them. Encrypted markets replaced back-alley deals. Money no longer traveled in duffel bags, but across invisible digital corridors. In this new landscape, the criminals who thrived were not the loudest or the most feared. They were the ones who left no trace. The Rebels, built for a world of physical intimidation and territorial control, suddenly found themselves struggling to understand criminal tactics engineered for a hyper-connected age. The rise of this new predator began thousands of kilometers away in the Balkans. The Albanian Mafia, emerging from the chaos of post-communist Albania in the 1990s, did not rely on visibility or theatrical displays of power. The collapse of the state, endemic corruption, and financial ruin created fertile ground for a sophisticated new form of organized crime. Their operations were stealthy, strategic, and highly disciplined. Instead of conquering territory through force, they conquered markets through control of supply chains and infiltration of legitimate systems. Their structure was built on family clans, bound by blood, and a strict code of honor known as BESA, meaning trust and keeping promises. This model made them virtually immune to police infiltration and far more adaptable than the visible hierarchical rebels. Their operations expanded with almost surgical precision. Ports, customs agents, transport companies. Each became a potential node in a vast network. The Albanians didn't need to paint their colors on city walls or patrol the streets in loud formations. Their power flowed quietly through supply chains and bank accounts. Where the rebels intimidated, the Albanians infiltrated. Where the rebels built brotherhoods, the Albanians built unbreakable systems. It was a completely different philosophy of dominance, one based not on loyalty tattoos, but on economic leverage. Meanwhile, the rebels had evolved into an empire defined by spectacle. Their criminal operations reflected the culture of their subculture. Clubs were fortified, motorcycles were paraded through city streets, and symbols of loyalty were prominently displayed. The hierarchy was strict, but cohesion relied heavily on personal loyalty and shared identity. This approach had worked for decades, keeping rivals at bay and creating a clear map for law enforcement to track. For the rebels, visibility was both strength and vulnerability. It allowed them to intimidate, to unite, and to dominate, but it also left them exposed to legal scrutiny, raids, and anti-association legislation. The laws were changing, too. Anti-bikie legislation in states like Queensland and Western Australia made public gatherings of patch members a crime. Police could stop, search, and detain them simply for appearing together. Clubhouses were demolished or seized. The very culture that once served as their backbone, visibility, unity, spectacle, became a legal weapon used against them. While the rebels clung to their traditions, the world around them designed new rules specifically to suffocate organizations built in the open. Central to this empire was Alex Vela, known in the underworld as the Maltese Falcon. Born in Malta in 1953, he arrived in Australia in the 1960s and rose from humble beginnings to become a bricklayer, bouncer, and eventually one of the most feared figures in organized crime. He joined the rebels in 1972 and became national president in 1973, a position he would hold for over 4 decades. Vela was both philosopher and warrior, combining street violence with strategic acumen. He invested $225,000 from a motorcycle accident settlement into a motorcycle import business, laying the foundation for financial power that complemented his criminal dominance. Under Vela, the rebels were nearly untouchable. Despite massive police operations and investigations, he remained largely free, his authority unchallenged. However, this centralized power, which had enabled cohesion, also created fragility. When leadership is concentrated in a single figure, their removal can collapse the entire structure. And this would ultimately prove fatal. While the rebels focused on visible displays of dominance, the Albanian syndicates quietly built a globalized infrastructure for criminal enterprise. Their operations were decentralized, using facilitators, real estate agents, and corrupt insiders to infiltrate legitimate markets. They engaged in vertical integration, acquiring cocaine directly from Colombian cartels, cutting out intermediaries, and drastically undercutting rivals in price and purity. Where the rebels relied on leather, chrome, and intimidation, the Albanians relied on logistics, secrecy, and corporate efficiency. In Australia, the rebels' analog model proved increasingly obsolete. Internal decay compounded their external threats. Internal politics became warfare. Rivalries simmered beneath the surface as younger members accused older leaders of being stuck in the past. The promise of easy money through new criminal markets attracted individuals with little interest in loyalty or discipline. The clubhouse culture that had once created unity now became a breeding ground for mistrust. Whisper networks formed, alliances broke, and what had once been a tightly bonded brotherhood began to look more like a corporation collapsing under its own outdated management. Generational shifts brought in members more interested in profit than loyalty. The culture of brotherhood that had once held them together began to crumble. By 2024, internal schisms led to mass resignations, with Western Australian chapters defecting to rival gangs like the Comancheros. The empire, already weakened, became vulnerable to external shocks. The decisive blow came not from violence, but bureaucracy. In 2014, Alex Vela, still the linchpin of the rebels, was visiting Malta when the Australian government cancelled his residency visa on character grounds. In a single stroke, the government removed the center of gravity of the rebels' empire. Leadership passed to his nephew Damian Vela, whose tenure was marked by instability and internal dissent. Chapters disbanded, members defected, and the once powerful brand of the rebels became meaningless. Simultaneously, law enforcement leveraged technology to strike a devastating blow to organized crime worldwide. The creation of the N0M app, a supposed unbreakable encrypted messaging platform, was in fact a sophisticated FBI Australian Federal Police honeypot. Criminals, including rebels and Albanian syndicates alike, believed they were communicating securely. In reality, every message, plan, and confession was monitored in real time. High-profile figures like Hakan Ayik unwittingly became conduits for distributing N0M devices, creating an unprecedented surveillance opportunity. Over 12,000 devices were deployed in more than 100 countries, infiltrating over 300 criminal organizations. Over 27 million messages were captured, revealing the inner workings of global organized crime. Operations included multi-ton drug shipments, laundering networks, and murder plots. In Australia alone, Operation Ironside led to the arrest of nearly 400 criminals, the seizure of over 6 tons of drugs, more than $55 million in cash, and dozens of firearms. Globally, over 800 high-level criminals were apprehended, with more than 53 tons of drugs confiscated. The rebels, already weakened and leaderless, were obliterated by this digital strategy. Chapters dissolved, members defected to rivals, and the brand that once instilled fear became a relic of history. Their analog model, reliant on visibility, intimidation, and loyalty, was extinct. And as their empire crumbled, rivals carved up what remained of their influence. Some ex-rebels were absorbed into leaner, more modern syndicates. Others tried to rebuild splinter factions. But without leadership, money flow, or cultural cohesion, these fragments dissolved almost as quickly as they formed. The fall of the rebels created a power vacuum in Australia's underworld. But it wasn't filled by motorcycles or leather patches. It was filled by networks with encrypted phones, offshore assets, and international supply routes, criminal ecosystems engineered for the digital age. In contrast, the stealthy, decentralized Albanian mafia survived, demonstrating that in the 21st century, power lies in anonymity, efficiency, and adaptability. The story of the rebels is a lesson in the changing nature of power. Empires do not always fall to rivals in battle. Sometimes they vanish because the world has moved beyond them. The rebels did not lose Australia to a stronger enemy. They were outmaneuvered by a smarter paradigm, a world where markets, logistics, and technology define dominance. The roar of their engines faded, leaving only echoes of leather, chrome, and a bygone era. The legacy of the rebels is not one of violent conquest, but of extinction, a reminder that in the modern world, survival requires adaptation. The era of the visible, theatrical outlaw is over. True power is invisible, global, and methodical. And in this new order, only those who embrace stealth, efficiency, and strategic foresight will endure. If you want to follow the most in-depth coverage of organized crime, the rise and fall of criminal empires, and the untold stories of the underworld, make sure to hit the like button, subscribe to Crime Cipher, and click the bell so you never miss an update. We bring you the truth behind the headlines, uncovering the empires that rise, fall, and vanish in the shadows of history.